Welcome to the breakfast show on Faith FM with Skafy and friends. This is the best place to start your day with positive and uplifting thoughts. You're listening across Australia on 87.6, 87.8 or 88, depending on where you are. You can also listen to us through the Faith FM app, which you can download for free and experience the show without any interruptions from anywhere in the world. Today, if you are listening live, is Wednesday, the 21st of January, and I am here in the studio with my co-host, Lindsay. Good morning to you, Lindsay.
Good morning, Joseph.
And on the production side of things, we have Letitia and Shell. Good morning to you, ladies.
Morning.
It's good to have you here. I would like to start by sharing my gratitude, as we do, Lindsay, with you.
Let's do it.
I am grateful for Ellen and Carl.
Alan and Carl.
Ellen and Carl. Who are Ellen and Carl? They are my friends. In particular, I'm friends first with Ellen.
Okay.
And Ellen married Carl just yesterday.
Aw.
We attended this beautiful wedding ceremony at
So
the Blue Mountains.
Oh, wow. Up in Katoomba or somewhere else?
No, Lura.
Okay.
Yes, at a beautiful church there, the St. Albans Anglican Church building.
Okay.
It was officiated by Pastor Boris Jovanov, who preached
I know him. He's great.
beautiful message, very beautiful message. And I was able to see a lot of my friends there. It was just such a beautiful atmosphere. You can really feel the love in the air. Everything was so
Weddings are
beautiful.
so good.
The food was yummy.
Oh,
I'm
good.
glad that I went there hungry because I really got the value worth of my time there because the food was absolutely delicious. And let me tell you one thing. So she comes from a Korean background, and they do like this kind of a Korean tradition
Okay.
right after the ceremony. And part of the tradition, there's a couple of things. One of the things that they do, they have the parents of both the bride and the bridegroom to throw a bunch of chestnuts and dates.
Okay.
And the bride and the bridegroom, they have to catch that with like a cloth.
Okay. See how many
And see how many lands. And chestnuts represent boys. Dates represent girls.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can call it a tradition or even a prophecy, if that comes true, I think they're going to be blessed with 11 children.
Oh, my.
That's right. 6 girls and 5 boys. That would be a full household.
Wow.
So, yeah. Well, didn't Jesus say, be fruitful and multiply?
Yeah.
So there you go. Look, I just want to, wish Ellen and Carl, I do not know if you're listening to this show, but I just want to wish you God's greatest blessings to your new family that's starting yesterday.
We always want people listening to Faith FM, but it's their honeymoon, so we understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe someone can send that pre-record to them today. What about you, Lindsay? What are you grateful for?
Oh, I am grateful just for God's grace. It's a beautiful day, and I just think God is so good to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen for that. Well, in today's show, we are going to look into what happened to Joseph after he was thrown into the pit by his brothers. Later today, we are going to have an interview with Michael Cook, and he's going to be talking to us about how to share about creation with friends that believe in evolution. So that's going to be a very practical one.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to tell a recent story that just came to public about an attempt to murder 20 Christian pastors that backfired spectacularly
Okay.
in Ukraine.
Okay.
So
All right.
stay tuned. We have a lot of great content covered up for you today. Lots of positive and uplifting things to bless your day.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
This is the Breakfast Show on Faith FM. And as our tradition dictates, now is the time for what, Lindsay?
It's time for a quiz.
Time for quiz questions.
This is my favorite part.
Tish, we are ready here. You can give us your curveballs. We want to learn more.
You ready?
We are ready.
Okay. What book of the Bible immediately follows the book of Ruth? What book of the Bible immediately follows the book of Ruth? If you think you know, 0491 064 669. One correct answer so far. Got one thinking. Yes, very good. Two correct answers in our studio. What book of the Bible immediately follows the book of Ruth? 0491 064 669.
Okay, that was a great question to start the day. Just
So
know
a little head scratcher for 2 seconds.
little bit of a head scratch and say, hey, what comes after Ruth and what comes before? So if you do know the answer to that one, 0491 064 669. Very good. And we are going to continue today our Bible study, Lindsay, in the book of Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at the story of Joseph. And yesterday we were talking about Joseph being cast in the pit in Dothan, in the city of two pits.
2 pits. Now, didn't Joseph actually end up in 2 different pits at some point in his life? If you think of later down the track,
And if you consider the prison a pit,
you could.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So we're going to see what happened after his brothers were celebrating or were just like having a meal. And I mentioned that is certainly the candidate of one of the most heartless verses in the Bible. When your brothers, like, they have half of your blood, they're sharing with you, they cast you in a pit, you're asking for help, and they just sit down there, they're open their bento boxes, and they're enjoying their meals.
Enjoying their meals as they're ignoring your screams. Yeah.
So how can you
Wow.
how can you even still have an appetite? It's beyond myself.
Wow.
But the story didn't end up there, and it was just the beginning for Joseph. So let's start reading from verse 25, please.
Okay. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, and on their way to carry them down to Egypt.
That's right.
So they were going from Gilead to Egypt.
Yeah, so the Ishmaelites, they were already commerce people by then.
Yeah,
they were already involved
traders.
in trading, in trade routes, and there has been about 180 years since
Okay.
Ishmael was born.
Okay.
So it's a couple of generations.
Yeah.
And that was definitely enough time for them to really organize themselves as a,
Respectable enough group
Yeah.
of traders.
traders. Exactly. And they were cousins to them, so they were
Yeah.
not so far removed to the sons of Israel. To
Yeah,
that.
they were
So,
what, second, third cousins.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe some of them they would even know.
Yeah, potentially
Potentially,
they recognize
yes.
each other.
So let's see what happens. So they're seeing this caravan of camels coming. They're bringing all kinds of stuff, aromatic gum and balm and myrrh, on their way to bring them down to Egypt. Which all of these things are actually. It's very interesting that these things are being mentioned because all of these things they kind of have symbolic meanings.
Okay.
In
What
the
are-
Bible?
What are their meanings?
Okay, so aromatic gum was one of the spices used by Moses to make the incense offering at the tabernacle. And you see that the prayers of the saints, for example, is in the Bible is compared to the smoke that comes out of the altar of incense. So that represents aromatic gums represents prayer, but not only any kind of prayer, represents a prayer that is pleasing to God.
Okay.
God often sees these prayers and he says, "Look, this is a beautiful smell. This is a smell that I like."
Okay.
Balm is like a medicinal plant which they use to treat wounds.
Oh.
So Joseph is going to be wounded, if not physically, certainly emotionally. And God was already providing, like symbolically here, hey, there's going to be some balm here. There's
Okay.
going to be some mending. And finally, we have myrrh or frankincense, which is also used, some of these spices used in the temple sanctuary. But this is also very interesting because frankincense was one of the gifts that Jesus has received when he was a baby. It was a very, very special substance, also an aromatic.
Is myrrh the same as frankincense?
They're different.
Okay, because
Yes.
it says myrrh, but
Yes, they are different here. And so these three things here, I think they kind of point towards hope. So even though Joseph was going to Egypt very soon, he was going to be going to Egypt in the company of prayer, of the healing of God, and of the presence of God. These three things kind of symbolized here in these three elements.
Wow.
And I think that this is whatever the situation we are, we can count and we can definitely bank on these three things. We can bank on the things that God is still listening to our prayers, number one. We can bank on the things that whatever injury that has been given to us, God is going to be able to restore and heal us over time. He's not aloof from the process of healing us, both physically, mentally, spiritually. And third, God's presence will be with us. Whatever we are, we're not going to be forsaken by God. And that's the reminder of the myrrh. So I think that there is some significance that the Bible authors, because they could just say, yeah, just a caravan, just carrying stuff.
Yeah, could just be
But
a bunch of traders.
They mentioned that, and why did they mention these three specific things that were widely used in the Bible in the sanctuary to represent these things? I think that to the audience that were listening to the book of Genesis, they're saying, hey, is it very significant that Joseph is going to be taken to Egypt, but God has already provided the spiritual first aid kit to accompany him?
Yeah, true. Wow.
Okay,
That's so cool.
It is the interesting detail here, isn't it?
Yeah, we've made it one verse in and we're talking about hope.
Yeah.
So good.
And we'll see that there's going to be more hope scattered into that narrative. Let's look into verse 26 now, please.
So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh." Yeah. And his brothers listened.
Yeah, so you see another place of delivering. After the meal, after that, some of his brothers, they say, you know what? Judah in particular, hey, guys, you know what? I think it's better not to kill him.
Do you think God brought the Ishmaelites there just at the right time?
I think so. Because imagine if the Ishmaelites caravans haven't been there. Maybe that idea of selling Joseph for a profit wouldn't be in the radar of his brother Judah. And Judah started to speak some sense into the other brethren, saying, hey, you know what? He's our brother after all, so why should we do such a thing as to kill him? Let's just sell him as a slave. It's just so much better.
Out of this instead.
So more humane.
Yeah.
They're probably thinking.
Let the Egyptians deal with him.
Yeah. Yeah, and at least we can get some change out of that as well.
Yeah. We've gone to all this trouble to chuck him in the pit.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Oh, dear. So Judah is the fourth oldest brother, if I remember correctly. So he's not even the oldest, like Reuben, but he seems to have a bit of sway in this story.
Yeah. Yeah. Judah is, I believe, among the brothers, he's a natural leader.
Yeah. And I believe he ends up getting the birthright in the long run. And throughout the generations of the Israelites, Judah has the bigger portion of land when it comes to the land allocations hundreds of years later in the land of Israel. And that's the line through which David and then ultimately Jesus would come through Judah's lineage. So Judah is actually a pretty important person throughout the story of Joseph.
And Judah has the big transformation story.
Yeah. Actually, as we eventually get there, I think Judah prays or asks the first intercessory prayer or conversation that we ever see in the Bible.
No, certainly not.
No?
No. Certainly not the first. But
No?
No, absolutely not.
Oh.
Because the first intercessory prayer is actually from Abraham.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember the episode where Abraham went to Egypt and, he decided to lie and say that Sarah, his wife, was actually his sister because he was afraid that the king of Egypt was the Pharaoh. He was going to, to take her wife from him if they knew. And then God comes in a dream to Pharaoh and says, hey, what are you doing? This lady is married. You should not touch her. And then Pharaoh came to get some satisfaction from Abraham and said, hey, Abraham, what have you been doing?
You're right. Yep.
And then God says to Pharaoh,
I'll get Abraham to pray for you.
Yes, ask Abraham to pray for you. And when he prays for me, then I will heal you.
All right.
Yeah.
I am corrected.
Which it is also not only the first intercessory prayer, but it's also the first time that you see the word prophet being thrown in the Bible.
Oh, okay.
So it's in the context of Abraham being like a prophet from God.
Awesome. Great. Shall we keep going?
Yeah.
In verse 27, Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt.
Okay. 20 shekels of silver, which is typically, I think it was a bargain.
It would have
Because
been
typically 30 shekels of silver was the price of slaves. And back in the days, they didn't really have a massive inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So prices were very stable for hundreds of years on things.
interesting. It would have been a bargain probably in the part of the world in Canaan, but in Egypt, they didn't have a lot of silver. So by the time Joseph got to Egypt, he would have been considered a very high-priced slave because he was bought with silver.
Oh, okay.
Because Egypt was filled with gold mines, but they had no silver. So in order to use silver to pay for something,
Okay,
that actually showed a high value.
So there's an exchange rate between silver and gold.
Yeah.
Would have made him a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Very good. And look, in the caravan here, they're the middlemen.
Mm-hmm.
So they would buy from a discount and try to maybe sell it for 30 shekels of silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thus they bought Joseph into Egypt. Now let's see verse 29.
Verse 29. Then Reuben returned to the pit. Oh no, he's been off doing something else for a while. He wasn't here.
He wasn't there.
Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said, "The lad is no more, and where shall I go?" So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, "We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not?" And he recognized it and said, "It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "For I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning." Thus his father wept for him. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard.
Yeah. We're going to hit a pause here. We're going to explore what happened here, particularly Jacob's response and the brethren's little speech, to Jacob and what happened there.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And we are now going to move on to answer the quiz question that we had in our first segment. So please, producer Letitia.
The question was, what book of the Bible immediately follows the book of Ruth? And that was 1 Samuel.
1 Samuel, that's the book. What is the next quiz question, please?
The next question involves a fill in the blank.
Ooh.
Okay.
So get ready. The Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will and sets it over the blank of men.
Can you say it again, please?
Yes, one more time.
The Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will and sets it over the blank of men.
And sets it over.
I'll say it one more time.
Okay, where are we getting this from? I think
We
it's
are
from
getting it
the book of
from-
Daniel.
Yep, Daniel 4,
Mhm.
verse 17.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
The Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will and sets it over the blank of men. Daniel 4:17.
Oh dear. What are we
Yeah,
gonna
I
do?
know. I know exactly
it's a bit
where that
stumped.
passage is. I know who is saying it, which is King
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay.
But so the blank is over the blank of man. Okay.
If you think you know, please text in 0491 064 669. The Most High rules over the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will and sets it over the blank of men.
Okay, I'll try this word here.
669.
I'm not very sure. I'm only 15% sure.
No.
But
Yeah.
let's see.
I was only 15%
Also,
too.
no correct answers for us this morning.
Wow.
Let us know if you know.
This is what happens when I don't bring my ginger tea to work.
Yeah, I think that no amount of ginger tea would have helped me in that instance here. Kind of, you either remember or you don't. Very good, very good. Oh, thanks for serving us this quiz question, Producer Tish. We are getting back to our story here, Lindsay, because one of the things that I've noticed here. Well, actually, I want to ask you first.
Oh, okay.
What are some of the interesting things that you have noticed? In that passage here, we're talking about Joseph being taken away to Egypt. We're talking about Reuben's response and saying, "Hey, what happened to my brother here? I think he was intending to save him and to deliver him." We have seen Judah trying to say, "Hey, instead of killing him, let's just try to see if we can get something out of it." Then we see the 11 brothers bringing some report to Jacob the father and his response. There's a number of interesting things here, but what sort of catches your attention?
I guess the thing that just jumped out at me before the break was that they went from selling him and then Reuben being like, "Oh no, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have him to use to get back into Dad's good graces," to now they're killing a goat and then covering the tunic with blood and then going to tell Dad that essentially he's been torn to bits by some kind of wild animal like a lion or something.
Yeah, which was very feasible because that area was full of wild beasts.
But they were, once again, so heartless and so careless of their father's emotions in all of this, right? They wanted to manipulate their dad now and get off scot-free for what they've done by telling him a lie that is going to keep him in grief for probably decades.
Yeah.
And it says that he refused to be comforted. This was his favorite son by a long way. And in verse 35, it says he refused to be comforted. All his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. I don't know if they thought this through. Maybe this is going to be heartbreaking for Dad. Maybe they were just it doesn't matter. Who cares what he thinks? We just want to get away with this. It's just so much selfishness is what I'm saying here.
And they are going to carry that guilt with them for a long time.
Going to hang over the family for forever.
Yes, they never really are going to forget what happened. One of the things that caught my attention is Jacob's response to the news. Because Jacob, he jumped into conclusions here.
True.
He said, because the brothers came very unassumingly to him and say, "Hey, we have found this. Can you please identify?" And then he identified that it was his son's tunic. But then he jumps into conclusion saying, "A wild beast has devoured him." Now,
he doesn't think maybe it wasn't a wild beast. Maybe something else happened.
yes. And look, they made it seem like it was a wild beast because they tore it apart.
Yeah.
They shed some blood there. But he was a grown-up man, so he could have asked, "Okay, instead of jumping to conclusions,
Instead of doing an investigation,
he could have done a little bit of an investigation and just throw that ball back at the sense, "Hey, what does it mean? What has happened? What do you know? Tell me, what have you seen?" Maybe even, interview each one of them separately.
Yeah.
And see if these stories would add up. Of course, he's a father. He would not think in 1,000 years that his sons could do this to one another, even though he himself experienced having a brother that wanted to kill him once.
Yeah. He was very much in his emotions here and not rationally thinking.
And Jacob was a very emotional person.
Yeah.
When we read through his responses in the Bible, he's always very dramatic. He's very dramatic.
I mean, he started off as mummy's boy. So he was always in the tents. He was a very soft kind of guy.
Yeah.
From the
well,
earliest.
there is definitely that.
Yeah.
So look, he didn't jump into unreasonable conclusions, and we don't know had he inquired the brothers if he would going to come to a different resolution. But the fact is, we often kind of do like Jacob, and we already have narratives in our mind, And then when we hear partial information from someone, we can also be very quick to just build a picture from there, which is not necessarily the actual picture. So I think this is just a general warning to all of us. Hey, next time that someone brings to you some kind of a bad report about something or someone, instead of just jumping into conclusions, how about taking a deep breath and say, hey, let me inquire, let me ask some questions. Let me inquire of this a little bit more.
Yeah, no, that's a really good thing to point out. Like, I think, we can definitely do a lot more investigating and slowing down and thinking things through before jumping to conclusions.
That's right. Because people can, by intent or perhaps not by intent, they can bring a report. In this case of Joseph's brothers, by total intent, by misleading. So they are only presenting, and this is what a gossip often is. And I think that they were trying to do this, the brothers of Joseph. So hear me out on this.
Okay,
one of the things that I believe they were trying to do is they're trying to kind of save or preserve a veneer of righteousness that they had and say, hey, let's not lie to Dad. So we're not going to tell any lies. Technically, they didn't tell them any lies.
True.
Technically.
Yeah.
Okay, of course they are in their overall, but they're kind of saying, hey, we just found this, or we have this. Like, not even that. They didn't even say we just found this. Yeah, they said, find it. Can you please tell us if it's your son's tunic or not? They did find it. They did find it in the body of Joseph because they took it from him. So I think they were really, so they didn't want to jump into conclusion. They didn't say, hey, Father, a lion came in and ate Joseph.
Yeah.
Because the father could ask, hey, how do you know he was a lion? Why didn't you shoo him away? Did you see him carrying, his body somewhere? Where are his remains that we may bury?
Yeah.
So we just found it. So sometimes with gossiping, what happens is that people will bring reports and they will edit out the facts that do not fit into their narrative.
Yeah.
They're just going to bring the facts that will maximize. And this is what happens. And I'm not accusing anyone, not blaming anyone here, but I'm just saying this is human nature. It happens, and we need to be aware as Christians so that we don't do this ourselves, number one. And then also we are smart as serpents when reports are being brought to us. The question is, what is being left out here? Can I talk to the other person about it? I know that I have been, I believe that I have been victim of, malicious gossipings before, where people would choose to highlight certain facts, distort certain things that I've said or done, and then they will report it as if this is the whole story, the whole big picture, with the intent of causing other people to buy into this narrative that the person that was sharing the story wanted them to believe. And this is the thing, I don't think that we as Christians should have any excuses to just believe these reports wholesale. Number one, say, hey, have you talked to that person before you bring that to me? Oftentimes when people want to bring some reports from some people to me, say, hey, look, number one, before you say anything, don't tell me the name. And number two, have you spoken to that person directly? And a lot of times people say, no, I haven't. And say, so I should not be the first person that you should tell. You should talk to God first. Yeah. Talk to that other person. If after you talk to them about that situation, if that doesn't work, let's go and we get to talk with them together. It's not that I invented that.
That's biblical.
That's biblical, and it works. And I have many times in my life that I did not use it, and things backfired. Yeah. So I said, you know what, God, next time it happens, I will talk directly to the people. And I have. I have an example here of a person that came to me and says, hey, so-and-so said and done this and this with you. And what I could have done, I could just have chewed on a lot of remorse and a lot of resentment from the other person. But I was very lucky that I heard and I heeded to the voice of the Holy Spirit talking to me. I said, I'm actually going to I'm going to talk to the person directly. And I said, hey, I have been hearing some reports that you said this, and that. And the person asked me, who told you that? And in my naivety, I said, hey, so-and-so told me that, which prompted then the other person to go back to the first person and say, hey, and kind of create a bit of a strike. Tension. If I could go back in the past, I would say, hey, it does not matter who said or who didn't say. What matters is I want to know what you say. Do you say this is true or this is false? Because then if they say no, this is totally a lie, then I can say, hey, let me talk to the other person, see if we can all be in the same room together and just clarify things.
Yeah.
So this is something that I believe was missing from Jacob's response. And I think this is something that we can definitely learn here. Not to gossip, number one, ourselves, but then when we are receiving gossipings, finding clever ways to stop it in its track, or if we could not stop them in its track, hey, let's confirm that story without throwing anyone under the bus either.
Yeah. No, really great application that you brought out there. Thank you for that.
Yeah, oh, my pleasure. What else do we see here?
Well, I just saw that it's interesting. First, the traders are called Ishmaelites, and then they're called Midianites. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, so Ishmaelites refers to... Do you know what's the difference, by the way?
No, tell me.
Yeah, so Ishmaelites refer to their ethnicity, to their race, to their tribe, because they're descendants of Ishmael.
Yep.
Then Midianites is because they inhabited the land of Midian. So Midian is a geographical reference.
Oh, okay. Alrighty.
So, for example, let's say your surname is Birch.
Yeah.
So I say here, let's say like many years from now, you have, thousands of kids, of children, and people say, hey, one of the Birchites came here. And then it says, and off they go, the caravan of the Novocastrians, because let's say they were all from Newcastle. So that's what's happening here. So the Midianites, so not all Midianites were necessarily Ishmaelites.
Okay.
Not all Ishmaelites were necessarily Midianites, but the Ishmaelites from Midian could be called both, Ishmaelites and Midianites.
Interesting, because it's like later on, like 400 odd years later, Moses marries a Midianite, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she was an Ishmaelite Midianite.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
But possibly.
Okay. There you go. Yeah. Well, that's cleared something up for me that I didn't know before.
The thing with Moses' wife is that she, even though she was a Midianite, her father was a priest of the Most High God. So he was a God-fearing man. He was a worshiper of the one true God, of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. So they are definitely on the same page spiritually.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. I listened to a phenomenal sermon.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I think one of the best sermons I have ever heard. Certainly, probably the best sermon I've heard around the story of Joseph.
Okay.
And I can find that sermon. I forgot the name of the preacher now, but I can find it because I have it in my records. And one of the applications that he made in that sermon was that when you see, imagine, picture, you beholding the caravan of the Ishmaelites, Joseph being dragged or being taken on shackles, and you see the sunset going down. And he says, now imagine that you're seeing right at the very back end of the caravan, right near where Joseph is, a little sign, like one of these of yellow triangular signs.
Yeah.
And in that sign, imagine that it was saying, God is at work.
God is at work.
God is at work.
While you're being dragged through the sand dunes of the desert towards Egypt, and you think you're going to be a slave for the rest of your potentially short life of slavery.
Because when you see the story of Joseph, God was at work.
He was
with
100%
him.
at work.
He was at work in Joseph's life. God was at work for the greater history of redemption of his people, and ultimately even in the redemption of the world as we know it through that story. And that preacher invited us to see, hey, when crazy things are happening around your life, try to imagine God putting a little plaque there saying, hey, God is at work here. And when God is at work, things do get messy, but they do not happen outside of a purpose. They do not happen outside of God being able to use that to accomplish his good purposes to both our lives and the lives of others.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
We are going to now give the answer to the quiz question. So, Tish, please.
Okay. I'll read the verse one more time. The Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will, and sets over it the lowest of men. Daniel 4:17.
Okay.
The missing word was lowest.
There you go.
So it's Daniel chapter 4, verse 17. I wrote down arrogance.
I wrote nations, and I was like, I have no idea. So
yes, okay. Lowest.
Did we
of
get
men.
any correct answers for that one?
No.
Wow.
Not this
It
time.
was a head scratcher for all of us.
Yes, that was definitely a head scratch. But look, the context of that message is very interesting. Daniel chapter 4 is a very, very unique chapter in the Bible. Number one, because it has been written by a king and by a otherwise a formerly pagan king, King Nebuchadnezzar, who at one point in his life was the greatest enemy of God's people. But he actually was a king, even though he was quite brutal and cruel as kings in the times of old tended to be. He actually had a soft heart, and he allowed the Spirit of God to work in his heart.
Yeah.
And he changed from persecuting God's people to being part of God's people and actually respecting and fearing the God of Israel.
Yeah.
And in chapter 4, we have a story about how God had to humiliate him, how to bring him really low because he was exalting himself. But by giving him something they call lycopene, which is he was behaving like a wild animal for 7 years. And God allowed his throne to remain intact. So 7 years later, he healed Nebuchadnezzar from his disease, and Nebuchadnezzar realized, hey, there is a God in heaven, and he is the ultimate sovereign on this planet, not me. And how I wish that every single sovereign, every single leader of every country in this planet could just read that chapter once in their life and come to the same conclusion as King Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
The world would be a better place.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.